Junie, checking back in with all of you. Going to try to do a location astrology map for Trenny Gibson. I have my air conditioner on. It's really hot. I'm going to turn it off. But I still have a ceiling fan on above me. So I hope you guys can hear. Okay. So Trenny Gibson went missing on a school field trip. Near Clingmans Dome on the borderline of Tennessee and I believe North Carolina. Let me try to make this maybe a little brighter. Let's see. Sorry, I'm in the back. Whoops, I'm in the back room of my daughter's bedroom because they're doing construction here and it's really loud. So trying to get it so you guys can see. Okay, so this is location astrology. By no means am I considering this as factual evidence. Astrology has been used for hundreds of years. It's a form, location astrology is a form of horary astrology, just like criminal astrology is a form of horary astrology, where you're looking at the planets as crime. When we're dealing with crime, we usually have you can see that you have the victim is ruled by the AC line, and the open enemy to our victim is ruled by the DC line. The DC line rules the 7th house on a crime chart, and the AC line rules the 1st house on a crime chart, right in here. The planets that are ruling that, the AC line, so Capricorn is ruling the AC line, which means that my victim is going to show up as Capricorn. Saturn. Okay? Which means that she was taken by someone into an area that they're most comfortable in. Can mean going back to their home or going back to an area that they have control over, is what that means. I'm probably going to have to turn back on the air conditioner unit because it is really hot. Cancer is ruling my DC line, which means that the moon is my open enemy to our victim. That moon is at a 22 degrees. That is a kill or be killed degree. So it's not it's considered an anoretic degree. It's not the best degree. It's a scary degree in crime. On your natal chart, not so scary. You know, I mean, on your natal chart, I wouldn't really read into it too much. 29th degree is an anoretic degree if you're born at that. I have a few 29 degrees on my chart as well. It just means that the planet is, that it's born exhausted. The 29th degree is, it's tired. It's been through some shit. You're born tired, okay? Like if your sun sign is born at a 29th degree, your sun sign is born tired. It's bringing on past traumas from past generations, right? And you have to make peace with that and figure out, you know, what it is to find spiritual enlightenedness, basically. Because you're born exhausted. You're already born tired. But on a crime chart, we look at these degrees much differently, okay? Hope that makes sense. All right. Now, I'm going to also pull asteroids and stuff like that. But right now, I'm trying to get basics done for, this is going to be like my rough draft. And then I'll do, I'll probably clean up the lines and stuff like that. So I have a few mile markers that I'm going to be dealing with. So I have 2.9 for Mars. I have 22 degrees for the moon, 14 degrees for Saturn, 11 degrees for Neptune, 27 degrees for Mercury. I'm paying attention to Mercury because they were on a school field trip. Mercury does rule schools. Mercury does rule, there's Mercury. Mercury does rule, you know, school field trips too. I mean, travel, school, children, teenagers, anyone younger than 29 years old, that planet rules. So I am looking at that as well. The fact that our killer, our kidnapper, our open enemy to Trenny Gibson, is showing up at a degree of Cancer, this means that this is someone who's been comfortable around the water. They may have had a job in the past where they've worked with nature, where they've worked around water. Maybe they're a fisherman. Maybe they enjoy fishing, crabbing. Maybe they own a boat, something like that. Okay, I could look at it like that. If it's a male, they might have light brownish hair, lightish reddish hair, strawberry blonde hair, red hair, sometimes even a pale face, maybe some freckles. They kind of wander. You know, they kind of can not really settle down. They can also be an alcoholic and also have issues with their emotions when Cancer is ruling our killer. They might have some emotional issues as well because that's all emotions. Cancer, the moon, is emotions. They might have some family issues as well. I know that some of you have watched me for a while now, and I'm a Cancer, and you know we are a complicated sign. We are very emotional. We rule with our hearts. We rule with our emotions first, not usually our head. We can be very trusting. So this would be a person that would be very manipulative. They could easily manipulate a victim for a male. Okay, I have to turn back on the air, guys. It gets really hot. I'm in the back part of the house, and it's a flat roof back here. So like the heat just comes barreling down in here. I hope that's okay. There, turn it to low. Okay, so I hope that's not too loud. I'm not sure if I'm going to make this video public or not. I might just send it to one person, but if I do decide to make it public just to get her information out, I'll let her decide if she wants me to go public with this or not. I would like to get the word out, so I do hope she lets me go public with this. So here is some information that I found that I thought was interesting. I found this article about Trenny. Here's what Trenny looked like when she went missing. Adorable girl, beautiful girl, whole life in front of her. Just a young girl. So she went missing at Clingmans Dome. And that's where I put my map up. It's a beautiful area. So it's like this walking bridge, you see? And it takes you to this tower over here. And it's just these stunning views, right? I mean, beautiful views of the mountains. I guess it's the Smoky Mountains. And you can walk these trails. Now that's the tower. Clingmans Dome right here. I'll try to get you close to it. I'm sorry, I shake a lot, guys. So her scent was found at the base of that dome. So that's why I wanted to map it out, okay? Where she went missing from. So I want to read to you this, a lady who seems that she's done a lot of research on Trenny Gibson, okay? So you guys know I struggle with reading, so just bear with me. Okay. I'm going to do my best. I get my words discombobulated and things look backwards to me, so just bear with me. So she goes into how she discovered Trenny Gibson and all her research, but we'll talk about the field trip. So she went on a field trip with her school. Friday morning, October 8th, 1976, was shaping up to be a rainy, chilly day. There was a field trip planned, but because of weather forecast, 16-year-old Trenny Gibson of 1427 White Tower Drive in Knoxville, Tennessee, thought it would be canceled. Trenny was part of a horticulture class at Bearden High, taught by Mr. Wayne Dunlap. She was very interested in plants, trees, and other living things, hoping to later attend the University of Tennessee and study landscaping and landscape architecture. Trenny worked hard at a cafeteria at the local mall, carefully saving her earnings so that she could invest in her future. When Trenny arrived at Bearden that morning, driven by her mother, Hope, she asked a fellow student passing by if the field trip was still on or not. Told that yes, it was a go, Trenny took her bagged lunch, but left her purse and books behind in the car. She then waited on the sidewalk with her fellow students while her mother drove off. Students boarded a bus and once seated were informed by Mr. Dunlap that they were all headed to a Great Smoky Mountains National Park. The students clapped and cheered. Trenny shared a seat in the back of the bus with a friend by the name of Robert Simpson. He was a senior and a close friend of Trenny's brother Bob, who had graduated the previous May and was in the Navy. Bob had just come home on leave, and he had asked Robert to keep an eye on Trenny that day. She hadn't been away from home and family for an entire day, and Bob was a bit concerned for her well-being. The bus arrived at the park around noon. Okay, so noon is a time frame for me. I'm already jotted down noon in the back of my head. Okay, and parked in Clingmans Dome lot. Mr. Dunlap told them that their assignment was to hike to Andrews Bald and back to the bus. The students were to observe the plants, the trees, and the flowers along the way, but they were not to pick or gather anything. They were not to go farther than Andrews Bald or to take any side trails. The meeting time back to the bus was set for 3:30 p.m. So she would have gone missing between noon and 3:30. So I'm already jotting these times down for our map, okay? Once the students had raised their hands to show understanding of the instructions, they were dismissed. So remember, this was 1976, okay? So a lot has changed since then about school field trips. Okay, so Trenny, the bus driver stayed with the bus while the students headed towards Andrews Bald, setting their own pace, breaking up into small groups, having a good time. They socialized and ate their lunches. Robert had loaned Trenny his brown and orange plaid wool jacket. as she was only dressed in jeans, a blouse, and a sweater. So it was October, so it was chilly. He and Trenny hiked together on the way to the bald. Mr. Dunlap was the only adult on the trip that day, which I can't believe that because there's 40 teenage students. He hiked with the groups of students throughout the day, but he was one man among 40 students. Many are unaware that Trenny had wanted her mother to come along as a chaperone. Unfortunately, the trip was an all-day event, and Hope did not have a babysitter available for her young son, who had just turned 6, so she had to back out of the trip. Forney Creek Trail. Trenny and Robert reached Andrews Bald and sat down and had lunch, Trenny sharing her sandwich with him. By all accounts, she was in good spirits, and they cracked a few jokes. It began to rain, so they took cover underneath a tree. Sorry, I got lost. Okay, Trenny and Robert reached Andrews Bald and sat down and had lunch, Trenny sharing her sandwich with him. By all accounts, she was in good spirits, and they cracked a few jokes. It began to rain, so they took cover underneath a tree. From then, accounts began to get muddled. Although Robert was tasked with watching over Trenny, he stated that she wanted to start the hike back to the bus, and he wanted to stay behind at the Bald and hang out a while longer. Trenny set off on her own, still clad in Robert's jacket. Trenny walked along the Forney Creek trail at a quick pace. She would catch up with a group of students, fall in step with them for a few paces, then overtook them. The last group that saw her and sat down to rest invited Trenny to sit down with them. She declined and kept going. They were the last group of students to witness Trenny basically that day. They were the last to see her. They saw Trenny farther down the trail stop and crouch down. It appeared she was looking at something to the right of the trail. She then stepped off to the right. One of the girls in the group looked at the place where Trenny had gone off trail once they had resumed their hike after a short rest. There was no place to go, only thick shrubbery, rocky terrain, ferns, and a small creek. So there wasn't a side trail that she disappeared off of. So she bent down to look at something and then walked off trail, but it wasn't a trail. She just walked off, basically, into this area that just was rocky terrain, ferns, and in a small creek. And I believe it's Thorny Creek that she walked, that was down there. A fellow student came up on the trail, and the girl asked him if he had seen Trenny Gibson, but he hadn't. Assuming that she would be at the bus, sorry, I keep getting lost. Assuming that she would be at the bus, they carried on. At 3:30, the group of high school students were back at their starting point, the Clingmans Dome parking lot. Someone mentioned, "Where is Trenny?" Another student asked Robert Simpson, who was among the returned students. Robert replied that he had hiked to the Bald with Trenny, but she had left to return to the bus, so he decided to spend some of his time tracking a bear. Nobody had recalled seeing Robert along the trail, and nobody else had hiked with him on the way back down to the bus. So this is when the massive searches began. You know, there was heavy rains, there was wind, there was fog. They had a really difficult time searching for her because we're in October, November, December. So the last search was November the 1st, 1976. Again, they started it back up May 1977. There was another search in April of 1977. I think there was another search in the 80s for her. This is another weird thing. A student by the name of Kelvin Bowman broke into the Gibsons' residence one night in 1975. So, He was shot in the foot by Hope Gibson. So I'm not really sure about all of that. That's weird. But there are 2 suspects, and there was a spirit box session that that Missi did online, and she did name a person. Now, she did give a suspect's name. Okay, in the spirit box session, the name she gave was Joe Arlen, and I'm not sure if he is guilty or not. I don't want to accuse him of anything because he's no longer living. And he might still have family alive. So his name was mentioned over a spirit box. Again, we're not supposed to take a spirit box as fact, okay? But it was a spirit that came through and said that Joe Arlen is the one who took her. I don't know if that's true or not, okay? I'll pull it up where you guys can go to Missi, the criminal, who's also a criminal astrologer. You can go to her channel. She has it listed on her channel, but I'll play it for you. You can kind of see just how wild this area is here. I mean, it is really out in the wilderness, okay? Like, very difficult to look for someone in October, November, even into December when it's snowing. So let me pull up my email. She sent me the little clip. I can find it again. Give me 1 second. Yeah, here it is. So this is her channel. And this is the spirit box.
Trenny, who kidnapped you? Trenny Gibson, who murdered you?
So right there you hear her say Joe Arlen. It's clear as day. I'll play it again. Whoopsies. Oh, sorry.
Trenny, who kidnapped you? Trenny Gibson, who murdered you?
Yeah. Joe Arlen. And he is listed as a suspect. I think it's Joe Arlen Shepard. So I am going to pull that asteroid as well. There is an asteroid named that, so we'll look at that as well. And we'll also pull her. Like, there isn't an asteroid by the name of Trenny, but there is an asteroid by the name of Gibson. So we will look at that. Okay, let me get rid of this commercial. Alright, I'm not sure why it's not letting me get rid of this commercial. Okay. So here's a few mile markers that I began to put in. Right on Clingmans Dome, where she was, right near where she was last seen. Right here. So that is Clingmans Dome, right under here. So I have mile markers of 1.1 mile. I have another mile marker of 11.1 miles. I had a mile marker of 2 miles, which takes me to 20 miles out here. So you can see I have a couple of mile markers, meaning that she could be up to. We sometimes find bodies near on these lines as well. Not only just on the lines of the planets, but we also find bodies in here. So it can tell us a body might be found at this point. A body might be found at this point. A body might be found at the next mile marker. So that's basically how it works. I hope that makes sense. So when I was looking at her chart, sorry, I'm really trying to get you guys in the right spot. It's just really hard. Okay, so it might be better. Okay. All right, so we'll start working with putting in the AC line and the DC line. I'm using my book. I lost the cover to it. My cover is missing now, so I have to get a new book because it's really in bad shape. So it's Criminal Astrology, Understanding the Crime Chart by Kirsty McIntosh, okay? You can buy this book on Amazon. It's a wonderful book. She teaches you how to read a crime chart, how the planets move, the speed of the planets, the ruling planets, which ones are double signs. So Aries, that's ruled by Mars. Taurus is ruled by Venus, Gemini, Mercury. It's a double sign. So Aquarius, our Capricorn on the chart would be ruled by Saturn. Uranus is ruled by Saturn in ancient times, because Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto are considered the newer planets. Okay, so we go by the ancient planets, and sometimes we look at certain planets a little bit, ancient planets. During the day they might be ruled by a certain planet, and during the night they might be ruled by a certain planet. So these are things that we always consider. When it is a double planet, I always kind of look at both and double check them. I always kind of do that anyway, just to make sure. So the first house is going to be your victim, and what rules that victim is the first house. So this is telling me that our victim is in a mountainous area, because what does Capricorn rule? Capricorn is the mountain goat. He rules the mountains. So that lets us know that our victim is in the mountains. It also lets us know that we're not looking for a living person at this point. So I have 2 planets kind of ruling the first house, Aquarius, which means higher elevated areas. That when she went missing, she was in a higher elevated area and high up, okay? Because Aquarius rules higher scenic areas. I just showed you some of the pictures. It was very scenic, very beautiful area, okay? Mountainous. That's all Aquarius. Aquarius rules all things that are in the sky. So not just mountains, but airplanes, anything that flies through the sky, anything that, you know, like a tower, that's all Aquarius, okay? So that's letting us know that our victim is in a mountainous area, and she's in the mountains. She's also on rocky soil. That, too, is Capricorn. Aquarius does also rule fresh waterways. So if she is near water, it would be a fresh water source that's moving. So I would think that our killer would have worked with water, and he might have some emotional issues. Kind of explain what he might look like. He could also have a bad back, stomach issues, nervous issues, nervousness, heart issues, or a bad back. Because Leo rules the back and heart, and Cancer rules the stomach. Stomach and breast for women. Okay. So let's go ahead and start working out the degrees of the planets. Put my notes. Now, Kirsty McIntosh, her book tells us how to read the charts, but she has a video on her channel where she teaches us how to do the mathematics for this, okay? So you have to go to her channel and watch it to learn how to do this, okay? But once you get it, guys. And you just have to remember that, you know, this is where I struggled the most when I started learning this, is that my north is south, my north, okay, so you would think this is north, but it's actually south when you're mapping out the planets. You would think that this is south, but it's actually north when you're mapping out the planets. Same thing. You would think that this would be the west side. It's actually the east, and you would think this was the east, but it's actually the west. So when you're mapping out these planets, it's in reverse. That's one thing you've got to remember. That I struggled with the most, okay? That was where I really struggled with tracing the trajectory of the planets and then drawing the lines and thinking, what the hell, this is not north. This isn't north. But, you know, once you figure out the quadrants, you'll get it, okay? That's the hardest part for me, because we're trained that north is north and we're trained that south is south. But when you're mapping, it's not, okay? I hope that makes sense. Okay. Okay, so we're going to first put in our AC line, which rules the victim, and the DC lines, okay? So, just always have a scrap piece of paper here for you to do the math. I can't do this stuff in my head. Like you guys know, I struggle, so I always have a piece of paper nearby, and then I write it down. So my first degree is 20, and I'm going to add that to 270. So 7, 8, 9, 2. So that takes me to 290. So my degree is going to be 290 for my AC line. I hope that makes sense. I'm trying to go to the base of this marker. So it does take us through North Carolina and Tennessee. So I'm sure that was difficult for law enforcement. I'm sure North Carolina and Tennessee were involved in this case because it's really on, it's on the border. It's right on the border. I don't know why it does that. Hold on. Okay. So I'm going to take the line all the way out. Okay. Okay. I'm going to take the line out a little bit farther past the lines because you never know. They could go past these mile markers, but not by much. I'll take it out a little bit farther. Okay, so that's my AC. Right. Okay, next line will be our DC line. So that's 20 degrees as well. We're going to add 90 to that. Takes me to 110. And then you go here for the direct line. Make sure you're on imperial measurements, guys. Okay, so I need to go 110. take it out a little bit farther. You just never know. Okay. Three, 3 here. Means I'm doing the right thing. I'm on the right path. It's crazy. Okay. All right, next I'll do the IC line because the IC line is so close to in the womb and in the tomb. So I do want to do the IC line, which is 11. Okay, so that would make it 11 degrees. And I would need to add 60 to that. It might be 60 or 30. 1 second. It's 30. I'm adding 30. So 30 plus 11 is 41. So we're at 41 degrees now. Now, time and time again, we find bodies on these lines, near these lines, or in between the pies that the lines make. Over and over again, these lines map out where a killer could live, where a kidnapper could live, where our victim lived, where our victim worked, where the kidnapper worked, where the killer worked, where the killer frequented. If he had a favorite fishing spot, something like that. I mean, because it is someone who's being ruled by Cancer. So I do want to think that this is someone who liked the water. 41 degrees. Okay. So, oops. That went a little wonky. Of course, my dog is laying right behind me, guys, so she snores, she farts, she makes all kinds of noises, she has nightmares, she has these crazy dreams, and she usually starts kicking me. So if you hear anything weird in the background, it's just my dog, okay? Okay. So, oh wait, let me not get ahead of myself. I should map out the DC line before I go get all messed up. She'll usually start drinking her water. She's hot too, though. I put ice cubes in her water bowl. She was so hot. It's really hot here. I'm really sorry about the air conditioning unit, but I can't take the heat. Well, I kind of told you guys I have pituitary and thyroid issues, and I have a tumor on my pituitary gland that they shrunk. It's still there, but it really does mess with me. I can't cool my body down. Like, I get really overheated fast. So I'm really sorry about the the noise of the air conditioner unit, but guys, I have to have it. I would be sweating and miserable. So, sorry that it's so loud. Okay, so we're back at 41 degrees for IC. $41. And this 41 degrees means in the womb and in the tomb. Okay, on your natal chart, it's the root. It's part of your childhood. The IC line is the root of your child, like, you know, your roots, where you come from. In crime, it's in the womb and in the tomb, how it's going to turn out. So it's an important line. I think it's an important line. Wait, what did I do? Okay. Okay. Now I'm going to map out the moon. Like I said, that was at a 22 degrees. That's not a great degrees for a killer to be into, a kidnapper to be in. It means that our kidnapper was in a kill or be killed mood, okay? It's not good, and it's also in the sign of Aries. So Aries rules injuries to the head. Aries also rules murder. It's the bloody planet. It's ruled by Mars. Also, next to that is Chiron, a wound that never heals. So, this guy has a wound that never heals. He also probably might have something on his face that stands out, because Aries does rule the face and your appearance. So there might be something specific about this man's appearance that stands out. He might have a scar on his face. He might have freckles on his face. He might have acne or acne scars. Lightish hair. So it gives us a couple of descriptions of what he could look like. Also could mean that he burned something of hers. Even with Leo in the 7th house like that, something might have been burned. Yellow, the color yellow. The color pearl, white, blue, like the colors of the moon. Mars is red, or that rusty brown color. Usually Leo is the color yellow, like the sunflower. Saffron. Mars is definitely like a rusty brown or a reddish color. Yeah. So Leo rules orange, yellow, or gold. So he could have blonde hair, goldish hair, reddish hair. Also, we have this kind of like yod, almost like it's not a big yod, but it's a little one. It's the finger of fate, finger of God. A yod is when God shows up on a chart and says, look at this. So that's the moon, again, is at the apex of a little yod, which I look at that as the universe telling us to pay attention to that moon. And the moon is the open enemy. So that yod, it's the finger of fate, finger of God saying, look at this moon, okay? In Aries, with next to Chiron, a wound that never heals. It's not good, okay? It's not good. It can mean murder. All right, so the moon is at 22 degrees. So let's do the math for the moon. All right, so this is going to take me to 22. So we have our first pie shape in the chart. You can see it. It's making this little pie between in the womb, in the tomb, and the moon, who is the killer. I hate to say that, but would be an open enemy to Trenny Gibson. Okay? So this little pie right here rules in the womb and in the tomb, how it all turns out, and the open enemy to Trenny Gibson is this little pie right here. Okay? So they could have worked in this area, they could have lived in this area, they could have traveled from this area. They could have lived in this area at one time. Okay, Saturn was in the 7th house, so that again gives me a feeling that he took her where he's most comfortable. I do feel like he might have burned some evidence with it being like Leo, like that. Saturn and Leo. And this is at 3 o'clock. I chose 3 o'clock because Saturn is in the 7th house. That means that her physical body is with the open enemy. That's why I chose 3 o'clock. I mean, and from what, you know, the time frame that they gave. She went missing between noon and 3:30. So at 3 o'clock, I have that she's with the open enemy at this point, because she's in that house that he rules. Mercury is the field trip. There's a death. It's in the 8th house of death. Children, field trips, school, travel. I feel like he played like he was authority to her. He acted like he was authority or something. Like he might have come across like someone who works at the park. One second. I'm still looking at it. So the moon is opposed Mars here. That's anger and aggression and emotions. There's an opposition. That's not good either. An older male, anger and aggression. Pluto rules death. And it's, if you can see, there's a huge stellium here. Look at them all. So there's a lot of energy squeezed in here. Uranus is an unexpected event. In Scorpio, that's death. During a school field trip with kids, teenagers, we have a death. It's in the 8th house of death. While traveling. Short distance trips, you know, things like that. That's what Mercury rules. Let's see if I can find it for you. Just so you guys know I don't just make this shit up out of my ass. This is where Mercury rules. So it's sitting in the 8th house of death. So it tells you here, siblings, school, short trips, goodness, neighborhood, communication, you know, short distance journeys, travel. So that tells you right there that we have a death on a school field trip. I mean, that's how I would look at it. And it goes straight down to authority. Even Neptune and Sagittarius, he like maybe Sagittarius can also be an authority figure. Half man, half horse. He's could have moved her, traveled with her. I do feel like she traveled. So the MC line could be, you know, it's like towards the heavens, is it towards water. Venus is towards water. The unexpected tragedy is near water. And the North Node, her destiny, joining her destiny, is in water. Mercury is in earth. The AC line is in earth. That rules the victim. The older male, the sun, is in air, so higher altitudes area. Murder up in higher altitudes area. Pluto, which is death, in higher altitude area. Jupiter, which can represent a teenage boy or a male, is in air. The moon is in fire, so that's anger. Saturn is in fire, which can mean that she herself might have been, something of hers could have been burned. Some evidence could have been burned, or she herself could have been burned. definitely in higher elevated areas in Earth near water. And there might have been some evidence that was burned, is how I'm looking at that. How I would look at this. I could be wrong, but it's just what I see. Saturn was ruling her. And Saturn is also another indication of where a body might be. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and map Saturn. Just 14 degrees. So I'm going to take 14 and 120. It's 134 degrees. Yeah. 20, 14, 100, 120, 14 is 134. Okay. I like to get close when I start it, so 134. So her scent was traced at the base of the tower, and there were cigarette butts found all along this trail. And then it took us to another parking lot that also had the same cigarette butts, and there was a beer can found. I wonder if they have that DNA. Why can't they test that now? I guess DNA wasn't popular then, but if they have any evidence left, I don't understand why her case won't get tested again for DNA. Because it seems like they found cigarette butts and that they found a beer can. I mean, I know this is 45 years ago, 40 some odd years. I suck at math. 40 something. Okay, yeah, like 40 some odd years ago, but I really wish that they would double check her case and see if they have any evidence at all that could be tested for DNA. Okay, so 134. My daughter might be home. I'm in her room. She's not supposed to be back yet. If she's home, I'll have to hop off because she's gonna be like, "Why are you in my room?" It's the quietest room back here because they're doing all this construction. Okay, so this is Saturn. I might take Saturn out a little bit farther because Saturn does rule the body. Okay. Okay. Now we'll look for Pluto, the Sun, Mars, and Uranus. Might do Neptune. I'm definitely going to do Pluto, and how Pluto and the Sun are together like that. So that's death and the vital forces as well. Might do Mars, because that could represent a weapon, an older male, death. Libra. Oppose the moon. See that? Part of that yod. Little mini yod there. Murder, an older man, older than 29 years old. Pluto rules death. Opposed, the open enemy to Trini, and it's in Aries too. So Libra can rule sex crimes as well. Let's see what Percy's book says about Saturn. Or just Cancer. Because our open enemy is showing up in Cancer, but we also have Leo sitting there too, so I really should read both. But he's going to take on more characteristics like the moon, which can be a female, but I don't think it's a female. Just the overall feeling I get because of where the sun is next to Mars and Pluto like that. I do feel like we have an older male. Of course, I could be wrong. Again, none of this is fact. I'm not presenting this to you as fact. Astrology has been used for hundreds of years to predict many things. This is what it could be. And usually it turns out to be right. I have a huge book downstairs of William Lilly's work. And you can double check his work. Even like shipwrecks and like ships that were missing back then. He would like tell you where they're at. The coordinates. I don't know how to do coordinates yet. I just know how to do the degrees. And I can type in an address, but he would do like coordinates. Like I find that shit fascinating. So our victim showed up in Capricorn, which says that she has a thin face. She was kind of weakly, kind of thin. A lean, thin face. She can have blackish hair or mousy blonde hair. That's what she looked like. A little bit of disorder to the teeth. She might kind of have a weird walk to her. Very witty. An old soul for a teenage girl. She might have had a broken bone in the past. A lean face. She might have walked with her head leaning forward. It also tells us that she's going to be found in the mountains, because Capricorn rules the mountain, mountain goat. And that's where she went missing, in the mountains. Now, our suspect could be short. He was at 22 degrees. So he might have thicker upper body parts. Like his upper body is thicker than his lower body. He would have disorder to his teeth, pretty rounded eyes, possible dark hair, darkish red hair. Cancer on the 7th house cusp can show us a few things. Firstly, it can indicate that a victim was taken by the suspect into the suspect's own territory, which I said that from the beginning. So, plus Saturn is there, which is ruling her. So I know he took her somewhere in his own, a place that he felt safe. Okay, so Cancer is ruling the killer, okay? I don't know how else to say it. The open enemy. Look, we have Mercury on the outside. We have Venus and the Sun. school, travel, school field trip. That's crazy. Sun is out there. So, you know, indicate that the victim was taken by the suspect into the suspect's own territory. It can indicate a female. One should not rule out mothers, stepmothers, aunts, or other women in the victim's life. I'm not saying it's a female because I have the sun showing up next to Pluto, which makes me, and Mars, so I feel like we have an older male here. So he could have a pale face, a whitely face, mixed with but redness on the cheeks, auburn hair, a flow of speech, a larger person at times, phlegmatic, short arms, fleshy hands of mutable condition, often moving from place to place, seldom contented, neither delighting much in action nor idleness. So sometimes we'll look at Cancer on the DC line and automatically think family. Shouldn't always think that. It could be someone who works around the water. It could be someone that's like short in stature and thicker at the top. Rounded eyes, definitely. But they could also have emotional issues. They could have family issues. So when we're trying to describe a suspect, these are things that we, should consider. He could have been wearing yellow, orange, or gold. He could have been in a yellow, orange, or gold car, a white car, things that are represented by the moon, pale blue, pale yellow, right? Pearl colors. And then the moon is in Aries in the 3rd house, which rules travel. So, I mean, he could have a red car, possibly. Or there's some type of rusty brownish color because Mars rules red. She could have been wearing blue. Our victim could have had on Capricorn rules colors like black, blue, and garnet red. Earthy colors. Saturn rules blue, though. And I think she was wearing a blue blouse. So that, right there with it being in Capricorn, I could say she could have been wearing blue, black, blue or black, basically. Even gray, like a bluish gray color. Brown, color of earth. I think she was wearing a brown jacket and a blue blouse or a blue sweater or something. So those are the colors of Capricorn. I mean, or he could have had blonde hair with Aries. I mean, with Leo being there. Blonde hair and round, soft eyes. Cancers always have these almond round eyes. I have them too. I have the Cancer eyes. You can totally see in my face that I'm a Cancer. I look like a Cancer all the way. I have all the features and characteristics of a Cancer. So you could have a round, even an oval shaped face. Round eyes. He probably would have come across like a father figure. I mean, like, he probably would have been Cancers can be extremely manipulative, okay? Like, people don't think that about Cancers, but Cancers as a killer, you're looking at somebody who totally manipulates you to get you in that car. And that they're fatherly, brotherly. Like, you think that they're, like, your family member, that, So, that they just seem so trusting, right? That's a Cancer male. They would seem so friendly and trusting that you would think that you're safe with them until you're not. Maybe like a father figure type of person. Okay, so let's map out Pluto, because Pluto does rule death, and the sun, which can rule the vital life force. So I'm at 11. for Pluto. And I'm at 180. So 191 for Pluto. You go back over to this because it measures it straight, and it measures it in the imperial measurements. Okay, so it's important. Okay, so 191. And the person that I'm doing this map for said that she was curious about the area that the sun is going to, or that Pluto's going to. I think it's going to take me right to an area that she was very curious about. I think it is. What the heck? 191. Where did it go? I think when I map out Pluto, Mars, which can rule a weapon, the sun, and Uranus, it's going to take me down to that lake that you were very curious about, honey. Absolutely. I'm going to take it out to that river. Takes me near Bryson City. Hold on. So by the time I map out the sun, Pluto, and Mars, and Aquarius, It's probably going to take me all through here. All through this area. So, a lot of mountains. I wonder if that's the river. The huge river that runs through Tennessee. It's called the Tuckahasegee River. Laurel Branch, Indian Creek. This line rules death, so Borg, Springhouse Branch, Holder Cove, Indian Creek, Forney Ridge, Mill Creek, Spring House Branch. It's a mile marker and a line there. Forney Creek. All right, let me just get the sun and all the rest of them in, because I really think it's going to take me down to that area that you were curious about. Actually, really curious about. I'm going to stretch. Oh, my back is killing me. Sorry, guys, I had to stretch. I was getting stiff. Oh, I'm getting old. It's not easy being 50 doing this. Okay. All right. So we'll do the sun at 15. Now, Uranus is going to be in Scorpio, but Mars, the Sun, and Pluto are all in Libra, so they're all going to be at 180. So 180 plus 15 plus this, so 5, 7, 9, 195. So it's going to make a nice pie for us down here. Crap. I let my finger off the trigger. Why won't you erase? Okay. 195. Right? Yeah. 195 is the sun. Kind of don't want it to start on a circle. I know that sounds weird, but then, because it all connects all the lines, so 195. Because then if I have to delete one, it makes me delete like 3 lines at once. So I'm trying to keep it separate. It's hard to explain. Okay, 195. Making a nice little pie for us. Look at that. Nice little pie. So that's life and death right there. These lines mean life and death. You guys can see okay. So yeah, I figured it would take me all through this area here. Okay. So I feel like we had some action in this area. I mean, we really could have had, he could live, you know, the victim could have lived over here. The school could have been over here. Our enemy could have come from this direction. This area is of interest to me because it's in the womb and in the tomb, you know, and the moon. The moon can always be a second indicator of, you know, where a body could be. He could have done something to her in here and then ended up in this direction. He could have got rid of a weapon over here. And our life and death is over here, down in this area. All lines are important. You know, it's really hard. Location astrology doesn't pinpoint an exact location, but it can give an idea of how far out you need to search, and it can give an idea of mile markers that are important, where, like, you know, 2.0, 1.1, where something happened there. Okay, some evidence could be there, or, you know, in future, we didn't have cell phones at this time, but, you know, where an eyewitness could have seen them on one of these lines. Okay. So Mars is at 29. So 29 degrees, 180, 29. So that takes me to 209. It takes me to Fontana Lake. Very close to it. Uranus is going to take me right to Fontana Lake, I think, which is a tragic event. Unexpected tragedy. 6 degrees of 210. So we take 6 degrees and we add it to 210. Mars rules murder. So curious if there's a woman that lives in around Fontana Lake that he knows. Because the person that I'm doing this map for thinks that she was taken to Fontana Lake. And Venus is right next to Uranus. It still is considered a higher elevated area. So Uranus, where an unexpected event happens, is 6 degrees. And 210. No. Yeah, 216. So 210, 6, 216. Let me just get close because yep, that's going to take me right to Fontana Lake. Absolutely going to take me there. I'll put money on it. Look at that line. Now, what was 29 degrees again? Murder? Yeah. So I might just see if I take this out 29 miles. Miles, 20. Miles is the DC line and the AC line. Let me see that again. Hold on. Just give me a second. I'm just experimenting here. It's almost out 60 miles actually. And 29 and 29 is close to 60. Because you can double these miles, you can triple these miles. I haven't exactly figured out how to do that yet, but there is a way that we can double the miles. So, I mean, 29 and 29 takes me to 60, and this lake is about 60 miles away. That you've been curious about. Fontana Dam, Fontana Lake were areas that you mentioned. She might be downstream more. She's more so in this area. She's in the same lake, though, but just down here. Also, if you pass any, like, nightclubs or, like, casinos, I forget. I'll have to run down and get my other book, but I know Leo rules, like, really some fancy, like, establishments. So if you pass anything like that, it might be a clue. She could have passed those areas before she ended up in this lake. Now, I am also going to map out Neptune. Neptune might take me to her as well. So we'll see where Neptune goes. And then I'll come back in and do the asteroids, because this is a really long video. It takes a long time. I just want to get the basic planets in. So Neptune is at 11 in... Neptune's in the 4th quadrant, so in the 4th quadrant, I have .240. So 240, 240 degrees at 11 degrees. 251. Let's see if Neptune takes me there, which could mean water as well, Poseidon. Oops, I'm still on the circle. Shit. Damn it. I'm gonna have to clean that up when I go back in. This is my rough draft. My first draft is always kind of rough. And then I clean it up. So it'll be 2 videos back to back. Neptune takes me to exactly where you thought. Holy shit, Missy. Oh my God, it takes me to the dam that you wanted, that you were so interested in. Look at that. Neptune is 251. No, 24. Where am I at? Hold on. Yeah, 250. 251. Which can mean trafficking somebody, like, you know, moving them around, traveling with them, long distance. Can mean overseas, too. So there's your dam. There's Fontana Lake. Look at all these kind of, you know, powerful planets. Pluto, Mars, and Neptune. All near this area. This whole pie. It's part of this pie here. I'll push this pie out a little bit farther. So Fontana Lake and Fontana Dam is right there, honey. Very close to our line. Makes a big pie. Maps out the whole Fontana area. For sure. Tennessee is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Okay. And Neptune rules the water. It's taking me to a water source that you were familiar, that you wanted to see if it showed up. And there it is. And tomorrow I will do the asteroids, see where they show up. I'll also do DNA asteroid, Algol, things like that. I'll try to pull up Nemesis. I always pull up Nemesis. Nemesis, Nemesis, which Nessus is like an enemy that you run into. Nemesis is an enemy that you run into while you're out. You know, same thing with Nessus. It can mean a struggle, some form of physical abuse. It also can rule assault, sexual assault. So I want to see where Nessus shows up. I want to see where Gibson shows up for Trini. So everyone, just please continue to keep our victims in your prayers. Trini was just a kid in high school, guys. She was just a little girl. She really was just a kid. What happened to her is just terrible. She's never been seen since she walked off that trail. So here she is, Trenny Lynn Gibson, missing October the 8th, 1976. This is her picture. Here you can see how the astrology put her in Capricorn. So that's the long, lean face, thin lips, a long, lean nose, round eyes. You can have darkish hair. But it describes her to a T that she'd be in the mountains. Capricorn is the mountain goat. Dry, rocky soil around her. Lots of brush around bushes and trees and things like that. And mountainous terrain. Describes her wearing blue. She was wearing blue. So that's how amazing astrology is. So yeah. All right. So I'm excited that Neptune mapped out your Fontana Dam, where you've been curious about. She's an astrologer too. So Missy's an astrologer too, and she mapped. Well, she did the astrology, and I think she pulled up an asteroid by the name of Fontana, and it took her here. When she did her astrology on it, she pulled up an asteroid by the name of Fontana. So that's why she's curious if the maps would map out that lake at all, and it does. Okay. Taking it so you guys can see. And we'll add everything else tomorrow. Really is in the middle of the wilderness. There's the creek that they were talking about, Thorny Creek. She was last seen going off the trail and that towards that creek. Farney Creek, I believe. So it's mapping out a creek that she was last seen near, or walked off down by that creek, Farney Creek. Forney or Farney. Forney, I believe. Forney Creek takes us all, it follows us all the way down. John Cove, Cody Branch. So it's in this pie section here, this Fontana Lake. This is the dam. And the line of Neptune's right here. Yellow Creek, color yellow, is part of her astrology. Fontana Dam. Yellow Creek Mountains. Lewin Cove. All right. I really hope this was helpful for you and help bring some confirmation to the astrology that you do. All right. Blessings, everyone. Keep Trini in your prayers, and hopefully this will help. What I want to do is try to help. All right. Blessed be, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye now.